What's up, dope stories? All right, so I'm on part 3 here. And before I get into the alcohol and that, I wanted to finish up a couple of things about psychedelics. Clearly, I don't think it's something to toy with, but it's weird. Like when you are new to it, the experience tends to be so overpowering that it captures all of your attention, and you're not bringing your daily sort of issues and life and worries. And I used to always tell people, do it when you're in high school, when you don't really have many worries about life yet, because everything's going to be magnified 10x, 100x, 1000x, you know? And if you're going to try to break through and all that stuff, which I don't even suggest anymore to anyone, but if you're you want to have your shit together, and you don't want to be bringing, it's a higher experience. I'm not even sure we're supposed to have it. We're here to experience life and to have these interpersonal relationships and live logos and all that. We're not necessarily designed to mix these two things. And so when you're doing psychedelics and you are shooting for those higher altered states, and the problem is the more often you go back, you start becoming comfortable there, and you start actually like bringing your ego with you. And then you start thinking about things, and that's when it can get weird and intense. And it's, and not everybody should be doing it. And there's a few people that I turned on, and it wasn't good for them, and it changed them in a bad way. One time this buddy of mine, he wanted to eat 3 hits, 300 mics of that Orange Sunshine. We were on a bus going up to a ski trip, and like he just clicked off. Because what happens is these people, you'll see them at like dead shows or raves or whatever the hell you go to, festivals, if anyone ever goes, and you've seen the person clicked off and they're gone. They're not home anymore. It's a trauma-based reaction. And it's the same thing when someone has extreme trauma. They'll switch off. It's a protective mechanism, but it's not good for your psyche, okay? You don't want to be splitting your psyche like that. And, you know, this other guy took a bunch, and we went into a cave. It's just a smart thing to do, right? Go caving on a ton of LSD, and he's like, I'm going to go this way. I know the caves like the back of my hand, you know? And I was like, I don't know, man. You should just come out, you know? And he went, and he got lost in there. And it's like in this mountain, it's just all of these pathways, you know, like really small. You have to crawl through them. And he got lost in there. And he says, flashlight went out, and fuck, he came out, and he was like fucking possessed and shit. Like seriously fucking scary, right? And so, you know, scary things can happen on it. And, but my final experience was with my buddy, the guy who turned me on to it, like all of it. And, my parents were away, and we were at my house, and I don't know if anyone's ever read Siddhartha, but he has the experience by the river, and he's like melting away, and he's having all these different, images, all these different animals, because, you know, in that system, we're everything, and everything's everything at its base level of consciousness. And so it's all in us. And, you know, I don't know if that's true or not. I experienced it. So did my buddy. But we might have been programmed to experience it. I mean, in all honesty, I think what happened was real. It was exactly the same as in that book, Siddhartha. But we were on over 1,000 mics, and we sat across from each other, and we just like looked into each other's eyes, and then everything, I guess, you know, melted away. And then like he became like, it was like melting away into different beings. And I was seeing different beings, and I see just all these different people. But I felt like I was them as I was seeing them. You can do this in a mirror too. People do it on psychedelics, which I don't suggest either. But it was like melting away. And then I saw me on a deeper level he became me. And then that started, and then all these animals, different animals, right? And then it was like this Krishna looking thing, right? It was like blue with like the jewels and the beads and the flowers. And it was like this, it wasn't male or female. It was just like Krishna looking thing. And it was getting really intense at this point. And then out of this Krishna thing, like, I felt my chest just like wrenching open, right? And then as I felt that, I saw his like wrenching open, and it was like colors, like cords of colors like coming out. And it was like, I remember just thinking like, if it was like this much color compressed into a thread, like that's how dense it was. And like it started expanding, and I'm expanding, and that's expanding, and I just felt really overwhelming fear. I felt like that I was about to dissolve into everything, and that there wouldn't be no coming back from it. And I had this picture of like both of us just like catatonic there when my folks came home, and I was like snapped out of it. And that was the last time I did any heavy experimentation. I had seen enough, done enough, you know, I saw that. And did a few more times a lot more times at dead shows, but just to dance and get that therapy I was talking about and have fun, right? So, and I used to tell people, like, do you want to eat this? It's kind of red pill, blue pill. Like, if you want to do this, and I would say to them, because if someone's going into it with fear, it's going to manifest. It's going to get ugly, right? And so I would want to make sure that they were going in there like they were excited about it and they were ready to love the experience. Like, so I'd say, so picture that this is a swimming pool that you're going to go into, and you have no idea how deep the pool is. And you're going to go to the high dive, and you're going to dive in, and you're going to dive down. You have no idea how deep that pool is. How do you feel about that? Are you walking up to the pool and kind of putting your toe in? Or are you with a big old smile on your face? You going to the top of that high dive and you diving in, psyched, right? And if they said, yeah, I'm psyched, I'd be like, all right, this could be good. Because it's all about setting and mindset and where you are. And so they do that. It was later on that I found that the Toltecs, South America, they would take, and they'd only choose a few people to go through this shamanistic thing. Like, not everybody should be doing it. They only select a few, the kids, and those kids have to be like having near-death experiences and have some experience already with the other side, and they have to have like a deep sickness and an illness as a child. And so then the shaman would take them up to the top of a cliff, right? And you'd look over the cliff and you couldn't see that there was water down there, but it was like a pool down there. And then he would say, how bad do you want to do this? If you want to do it bad enough, trust me this much, jump off this cliff. And that's a real test. That's definitely a little more intense than my questions, but it's the same thing. And they jump and they'd hit the water, and then he would take them through the shamanistic school. Anyhow, so that's it. Also, that left brain, right brain thing I was talking about, that's in a book called Binary Soul Doctrine, and it's just really cool because it explains reincarnation, but it also explains you got one life to make it right type thing. You have this life's spirit, this life's ego is yours, and that's ours for this life. But that soul, that goes on and apparently creates more egos. Okay, so it kind of explains the whole thing and makes everything make sense. If you want to check it out, get it used for like $4 or something. Binary Soul Doctrine. So, all right, so I'm still going to dead shows, but I put all my preppy clothes on. I called up all my like buddies from the shore, and I just got into the whole sort of college and drinking and partying scene, all right? But I was also just like super into music, still am, just always been writing music. And like my thing is, like 7 years ago, I sold like a lot of stuff and moved up to this cabin here to write songs. That's the thing. That's what I'm doing. And so I had like bands back in college, and we would play like half dead songs and half, because then you get a bunch of people to come out. And so I was like really into music. So, but I played it too loud. Band practice was too loud, and then I would listen to band practice, and then we'd go see bands at night, and then we'd play, and it would just be, I fucked up my ear, all right, really bad. So I got tinnitus. So I went to the doctor for tinnitus, and he gave me Xanax. So that's how the Xanax started, okay? And it works, because the tinnitus is traveling along the pain pathway. It's traveling along the nervous system, and opiates and Xanax will calm down the nerves, and then it calms down the signal, and you're not hearing that ringing as much. So I'm playing in the band, and I'm doing coke. Like, I wouldn't do anything for the first set, right? And then second set, I would drink like 2 beers and do a line. It was a fantastic experience, right? Really. And that was part of why my ear got messed up, because the coke messes with your nerve pathways and your inner ear and stuff, makes it more tender or whatever. So I was drinking and doing that, and so I had this girlfriend. She was like this art student, and I was like, I thought I was really into her. I'm not even sure, because we're addicts at that point, and I definitely wasn't really loving myself. So I'm pretty sure I didn't really love her. Maybe I did, maybe I did. But anyhow, she like broke up with me, and this is how she did it. Art school, right? And she's like, I have something to tell you. And I'm like, all right. By the way, I have something to tell you. We need to talk. Those are the worst things in the world for anyone to hear. So I have something to tell you. We're laying there. We just had sex, right? We're laying there. I go, okay. And she goes, I slept with a black virgin. And I was just like, what? It's so art school. And she was like, yeah, it's just an experience I wanted to have. And it was just a little weird after that. And then, yeah, then it was over after that. But it kind of like, it hurt. Get kicked in the solar plexus, right? Getting kicked right there. Just that feeling. And I definitely just started drinking like every night at that point. And I don't really like getting drunk at all. Actually, I hate it. So, but I could drink a fair amount, and beer mostly and stuff. And so I'm in school, and we're drinking a lot. We're doing blow at bars, and I don't know, happy enough. I felt like I was having a good time. And like, remember, that was my goal in life. Just skate through and have a good time. And so doing that, and I remember my roommate, we had this guy, he used to be on tour with the Dead, and he used to sell dope to Jerry Garcia, and he was a really wild dude. What was his name? But he was like dressed in like just the nicest clothes, and he would just steal like all this food from the food store and meat and shit. But he had suitcases with dope, suitcases with heroin. We're just like in college, just drinking a lot, and like none of us were. And I knew I was gonna do it. I knew I was gonna do it, but I was like, I gotta put it off. This is way too soon, right? This is way too soon to be doing this. And he had a handcuff to his hand. He'd be nodding out, cigarettes falling, nodding out, laying on the couch. He was just staying at our place with the suitcase of little dope packets. He used to take them from Philadelphia to Boulder, Colorado, out here, and sell them back and forth. And he also made LSD in this little apartment. Crazy, right? What was his name? Anyhow, so it was weird because all my roommates were like, they were all like, all right, let's try it. They were like the most normal dudes too. And I was the one who was like, I can't do that because I knew, you know, I knew. And, so shortly before this too, I had to go to the dentist and I got my first Percocet and I was just like, and it was like, bam, again, it was like that first bam, you know, with the Till the Morning Comes, Grateful Dead, that first high, it was the exact same thing, just kind of next level, but really the exact same thing. Like, I remember I had painted the walls, like, all this psychedelic waves and everything with glow-in-the-dark paint, like, ridiculous, right? And I would just play guitar in there, and I took that perk and the glow-in-the-dark, and it all just clicked. And I knew, I was like, this is that stuff that I'm going to do one day, and I need to not do a ton of it, but control it. And, you know, you couldn't get a lot of Percocets or whatever, and I wasn't going to just go to the dentist or whatever, and I wasn't there yet. But I was, like, grabbing them from my parents', like, you know, medicine cabinet. There always seemed to be some there. So I was doing, like, I guess just a few a month, like 5 to 10 maybe a month, but I don't know. It wasn't that big of a deal. All right, so I'm done with like 8 years of college, right? I just stayed there as long as possible, and I wound up with a master's in education, and I taught in Philly for a little while, but so I had this German girlfriend at this point, and I was like gonna go visit her in Berlin for the summer. So I took like a big container of Vicodin and shit, but I thought I was just gonna be there for the summer, but I met this really cool British guy, and he had a band. He needed, you know, I saw this ad, and I was like, oh, play some music here, and like, he was British, the girl was Scottish, the drummer was Irish, the other guitar player was Australian, the keyboard player was German, and the wall had just come down over there, and we were like living in Mitte, right over Checkpoint Charlie in East Berlin, and no telephones, you know, it was just really back to basics, and no telephones. We would just meet either at the coffee shop or the bar. If someone wasn't home, you would just find them there, and I ran out of the Vicodin, and I really was into it. I stayed, and so looking back, I stayed for 2 years. It was kind of like the best 2 years, looking back, because I didn't have the drugs. Like, I couldn't get the drugs, and it was fun. It was really neat living in another country. And Berlin is just fucking cool, okay? It's like the heart of art scene in Europe. It always has been, and all those people in the band, everybody was really cool. We were all like, I was the American and just yelling like, we need a big hook in this, like, make it big. And then the Australians like, no worries, mate. And the Scottish chicks like, fight me. And the Irish drummer is just drunk and having fun on the drums. And the British dudes just like brooding and just like, oh, we need to go. You know, everybody was like the exact of their culture. It was just really neat. And so traveled around Europe and everything, whatever. So came back, and I was like living in this house, like a group house, because I needed a room, West Philadelphia, and it was pretty weird, like living with some kooky people. And so one morning, and this is about 6 years after the last time I had, maybe 5 years after the last time I dosed, and I woke up one morning, and like the white wall, it was like breathing a little, right? And I was like, that's weird. And the next day, it's breathing more. The next day, more. The next day, more. And now the wall's like not really even there. Like, it looks like I can just put my hand through it, right? And this is like all the walls. Now everything is like starting to look like energy to me. And it was, I had like, it's one thing to trip, laugh, have a good time, but when you're breaking the walls down, Like, I was breaking the walls, right? The doors, perception. Like, I was blowing them off the hinges and shit. And it's, man, in retrospect, I would have done way less acid. But like I said, I thought I was just going to go be a Trappist monk or fucking hang out with a guru in an ashram or some bullshit like that, right? I just wasn't looking ahead. Very smart. Not smart of me. And it was a full 30 days. It got worse and worse every day. And I was in tears at the end of this. I was in tears, and I thought, I really fucked myself. And I'm going to end up, in like fucking institution, like just doing watercolors out back, you know? Like, this is what I was thinking. I could barely drive because like the headlights of the cars coming on were like all the way out, right? But the power of the mind to acclimate is, you know, you think, and you see people who are blind or whatever, and how could I ever deal with that? I'd go crazy, but they acclimate to it. And just like that, like I, over time, acclimated to seeing the world that way. I learned how to drive with the lights coming at me like that, and it's a lot of energy. And like, yeah, I kind of have to live up on a mountain because it's kind of like being high all the time in that sense, except you're not high. You're seeing, it's all like very visual. And that's why the dope kicks in, okay? That's why all the ex-fucking deadheads are dead, because they do too much acid and they realize that the dope, when they get into the opiates, it's a low vibration trip. It just lowers the vibration. So those colors and all that energy, it settles down when you do it. It's the cure for that permanent flashback that happens when you do too much psychedelics, right? Yeah, so it's getting more. I'm not doing opiates at this time. Just doing the Xanax. I thought it was for my ear, but I'm an addict, right? So it's all taking off with me. I wasn't drinking much at that point because I just got back from Berlin. I was drinking, but the opiates and stuff hadn't taken off yet. I didn't realize that was going to help me with that situation of acclimating to a whole new world of like seeing things in energy. But like I said, it's really unsettling if you're in like a structure, you know, with a lot of right angles and stuff. Like, basically you're tripping and you don't want to be around bad situations. But up here, sunsets, sunrise, everything is actually a little bit more, you know, interesting than it would be. I don't know. Maybe this is me looking at the bright side. Like, you got to. Everybody has to. But, so there I am. And now my buddy's like, come live out in Colorado. And I'm like, there's no trees out there. But I always wanted to live in Colorado. It says in my 8th grade yearbook, it says Colorado. Because like I've always been into the mountains and skiing and stuff. And it's just, who doesn't? Like, I don't know. Nature and stuff like that. So the mountains. So anyhow, part 4. I moved to Colorado, and the opiates take off. All right. Peace.